We're offering a 100-year warranty on our shoes, just like somebody would offer a 100-year warranty on a car. But here's the thing, they don't warranty the tires. So wherever's touching the ground, you have people peeling out and doing all sorts of things. We're not going to warranty that, but with materials and craftsmanship, absolutely. And you know what? I can sleep well at night because I know that our materials are the tightest and the strongest that we could buy. And our construction, nobody does it better than our Italian shop there. And our design and our patterns, we've designed it in a certain way that it won't beat out the inside and won't destroy it from the inside out. It's perfectly designed, I think, as perfectly as you could. And then our patterns are made exactly in the right shapes and the right spots. The patterns, you guys, are so important to a quality design. I would say ours are the longest lasting, well, I don't want to say the longest lasting shoe in the world, but I don't know anyone who could make a longer lasting one. Let's just put it that way. So, and still look good. Yeah, you might get one to put together, but it looks awful after 40 years. Or after 100 years, but these are amazing, and I'm going to explain it to you. So this isn't our one of those my first big boy shoes. My kind of Hello Kitty. I'm into the big boy job. I just got a big job out of college, and I'm going to get a really nice pair of shoes. That's not these. These are made the way that they used to make them, but a little better, or maybe equal or a little bit better. They used to make pretty good shoes in the early 1900s. On the East Coast. But let me explain to you all of the details, all the fine details of why we can offer a 100-year warranty on these boots and why I can sleep well at night. So anyway, here we go. It has to have, just going to have a cut there. So it all starts with the leather. If you don't have great leather, then it's all up. This is the tightest, hardest, toughest, not hard, the toughest, strongest, most resilient leather that I believe there is on the planet. And we've looked around, we know all the great places all around Europe, all around everywhere. Japan, this is it. And they've been doing it for so long, and they've been doing such high quality. But here's the thing. This is an Italian leather. It's an Italian veg-tanned leather. But why is it? Not just because it's Italian, or I wouldn't say it's high quality because it was tanned with the sweat of 40 virgins and it's from the Himalayas and these monks do all this and only 10 are harvested every year. I don't care about that stuff. I want durability. Is it going to look really good for a long time? Is it going to last for a really long time? And let me explain to you why this leather is better in detail, okay? So what they do, first of all, let's start with the cow. The cow in our tannery is one of the best. There's 700 tanneries in Italy, and it's one of the very best tanneries, if not the best, for this type of leather. It's a thicker leather for shoes or handbags, that kind of thing. But they get their leather from Scandinavia, from Denmark or Norway, Finland, Sweden. And those cows are bigger. And they don't allow growth hormones. The European Union and Europe they don't do growth hormones. So in the U.S., the cows will grow to 15 months, 18 months, they slaughter them. And there they grow to 24 months before they slaughter them. And so the cow's not going to get any more meat. And so, but you know how when a pregnant woman will grow really fast and she'll get stretch marks because the skin couldn't grow it wasn't expecting to grow that fast. And so it stretches out almost like a big balloon, and the more you blow on it, the bigger. Right before it pops, it's really, really, really thin. But if you blew it up slowly, or you blew it up a little bit, and it'd be thicker. So ours, the leather grows with the cow slowly, and it gets really, really thick. So it doesn't stretch out, and then it's slaughtered. And so it has a chance to get thicker. And so then, let me explain a little something to you on this. Check out this piece of leather here. So like the top 20% of this is all collagen, for example, or just so you know, this is collagen. And the collagen matrix, or the fibers in there, make up the leather. The top 20% has the grain, and that's like really super tight, right on top. And then you just go down lower and lower, it gets flatter, and then you can pull apart where this is where the meat of the cow is here. But this leather on top, that's the really, really, really tough stuff. So we use 1.8 to 2 millimeter leather for our boots. And so this is 5 millimeters or so. And so about 5 millimeters. And so the top 40% or so is has all that grain on it. It's really the tough, tight stuff. And then the bottom is a little bit looser, but it's still really tight. Well, the European cows are even thicker, have a higher percentage. So maybe 50% of our leather would be grain, the really, really tough stuff. And on bigger bags and stuff like that, like we use really good leather for Saddleback. And for bigger pieces, that doesn't matter as much how tight it is, because it's not going to be stretching out. But when you're talking about a shoe that's going to has all the foot motions, and maybe if you walked all around London for the whole day, you'd maybe take 18,000 to 20,000 steps. And that's the foot pushing and pushing and pushing each foot like 9,000 to 10,000 times each on each foot. And so you're going to want really, 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 really tight fibers for the boot. And all that's the grain here. But the rest of the leather too has a really tight fiber. So that is the cow. They don't allow GMOs in the growth for the feed. It has a really constant feed. A leather that doesn't have a constant feed, the skin is thinner in some spots, thicker in some spots, thinner in some spots, thicker in some spots. But this is such a constant, well-nutritioned cow that has really even, the leather's very even thickness. And so when you get a domestic cow in Mexico or in Brazil, where they're just eating beans off of trees and they're eating weeds and all that kind of thing, the leather will be thicker and thinner. And so you might get a piece that's thicker here and thinner here, or it might come up on the heel. It might stretch because it's thinner. And that's one of the things. The leather is really important, how they tan it. So let's say the hide comes in from the tannery or from the slaughterhouse in Italy. Like immediately upon arrival, it gets into a freezer that's almost a freezer. It's like 2 degrees above freezing. And so the bacteria stops eating away at the grain. And it's stored at that really cold temperature to stop the bacteria. It completely stops the tear down of the leather, which is about the rotting, until they can process it. And a lot of places don't do that, but that's expensive to keep a freezer like that. It's this giant freezer they have. And then when they remove the hair, so imagine someone goes, let's say my wife Suzette goes, "Hey, I'm gonna take out some of your facial hair." So she grabs it, just rips it, or imagine someone grabbing your hair and just ripping out a big handful of your hair. And there's tugging and tugging and tugging until they finally get, and you're like, ow! It would rip up the top layer of your skin, and you would be bleeding and stuff. That's what a lot of places do with the hair when they have it on the hide. They rip that up. Our place, they do it over a long period. It's like they put Nair. So all the little roots of the hair, little follicles that go in there, they kind of dissolve them with a process with lime and various things, but over a long period of time, and the hair just comes out. So it's like putting Nair in your hair, and then you wake up and there's hair on the pillow. So it doesn't tear the grain. That's another thing, that it's a long process, but it's the right process to keep the grain intact, not ripping the grain. And then you wonder, and then the tanning process, what they do is after they put all the tannins in for a really long time, some of the parts has little calluses, is a little more dense than other parts. It's just natural. All cows are like that. All skin is like that. And some absorb better, some don't absorb as much. So what they'll do, and it's one of the things, it just takes longer. 3 or 4 days, they'll stack it and all sloppy. And the moisture, the liquid, is the vehicle with which the tannins make their way in, the preservatives, all that sort of, all the natural, everything makes its way in evenly across the hide. But it takes 3 or 4 days. And the Germans call it oiling. I forget what they call it in Italy, but it's they just let it set, and it's like marinating. If you marinate a piece of chicken, the middle part, a more dense part of the chicken breast might not get any of the flavor, and the outer part's got a lot of the flavor. The same thing happens with leather. So in the way they tan it, and then when they finish this leather, oh my gosh, it's amazing. This leather, what they do is when they first they pull all the fats, all the cow fats, they pull them all out, and then they put the tannins in, and then they replenish it at the end with more fats, and they do it for a long time with all the cow fats, all the natural. They actually have a recipe. I think they've got like some cod oil, and they've got various things that they put it back into this, and you could eat it. It's just a natural thing. But now where you pull where the molecules were pulled out, instead of putting if they say it's a baseball size in a micro, now some synthetics would put like a little golf ball in there, or they would put a softball, try and squeeze it in there. And you have these little gaps in there, but with the fat molecules, they just go straight back in perfectly, like a baseball size. And so it's a little denser of a leather too. And because it has all of the fats and oils, that makes it pretty darn waterproof. And so when the shoes dry out pretty quickly, with a lot of vegetable tan leather doesn't do well with moisture and gets spots and that sort of thing because it's so dry. But this leather that we're using is an all natural, natural fats, natural oils leather, and it stays waterproof. So we have the leathers. The leather is not just because it's Italian leather. There's a reason. The cows, the feet of the cows, the grain structure, the collagen matrix is really tight. The fibers are really, really, really tight all the way through. And a lot of places, when they hurry up and slaughter that cow, the grain structure, the collagen structure is just not there as well. But of course, some things you don't need to have, like titanium doorknobs. Brass or bronze will do just fine. But in some things, when it really matters, like a shoe, you want titanium doorknobs, or this is the equivalent of just a really strong material. So we have the leather. Then we have the lining. So with the lining, here our materials, so we just put cow skin in here. It's a really tough, it's treated for cow, it's treated to be a lining, it's specifically treated for that. And it's also really durable, and has all of the grain, the full amount of grain on it. And by the way, let me explain that. If it has, a lot of places will, so this is full grain. It has all of the grain on it, the full amount of grain. Some places will go, oh, look at all those icky scars. We're going to have to throw a lot of this away. We're going to have to cut around it and throw it away. So they'll sand off through a big machine. They'll sand off the top layer. And now the top of this would only have a little bit of grain left. And so they call it top grain. And then, but big hide like this, they'll maybe split it down the middle, and they'll take the bottom part off, which doesn't have any grain, and they'll go sell that to a low-class shoemaker. And then they'll take the top half, which has all of the grain, the full amount of grain, and they'll sell it to me. And so that's full grain versus top grain or anything else. So what they'll do is, so this is full grain, so it's really, really tough. And why we do it with this instead of a synthetic, there are several reasons. But we're talking about strength here. We're not talking about the other materials or why we don't use synthetics besides all the bacteria and stink. Like, by the way, like 3 years later, 4 or 5, still smell like leather. But the lining expands and contracts. The cow skin expands and contracts here and in the lining at the same rate. So they both get wet, they'll expand and contract and expand and contract. So a lot of times materials don't expand and contract at the same time. So you have a petrochemical lining, some sort of synthetic, and you have leather on the outside, and they expand and contract at different rates. And then all the little holes, I know it's just a small detail, but all these little holes where the needle went through, where it's holding both of them together, one is expanding and one is contracting, and one is expanding and one is contracting, and it makes the hole a little bit bigger. I think we got that before the...
Expanding and contracting was where you kind of left off. So,
Okay. So if you have a synthetic in here, it expands and contracts, but the leather expands and contracts, or vice versa, with different heat levels, cold levels, sweat, moisture, all that sort of thing. You want them expanding and contracting at the same time. So we're not concerned about our stitch holes expanding out. Just, you can't even tell the difference, really. It's one of those 1, 2, 3% differences that makes all the difference in your, what's one of those things, you get 20 of those small, 30 of those small details, and it makes all the difference. So our lining is really important. So this is sole leather. It's not sole leather. This is pretty thick. It's about the same thickness as we have here for the sole. It's a vegetable tan leather always, the sole leather, and but not all leather is made equal. So the leather that a lot of people get will be tanned, will be processed and tanned from hair on to finished product. Here you go, make your shoes in 2 to 3 weeks, and then we have some. We were going to use it from the south of England. They have records of Romans buying their leather 1,000 years ago. But they have a 14-month process. Someone told me about a 24-month process. It just absorbs and soaks in all of the wood fibers. Super duper strong, lasts forever. I'm saving that. We've already bought some. I'm saving it for a special project. But the leather we're using is also an Italian sole leather that will just last way longer than a typical leather that you would buy from a lot of countries. And so this is just fantastic leather, and it's just hard wearing, and that's what we buy. This piece of leather here, the sole or the tongue, a lot of times they'll cut this from the belly of the cow. It's real loose fibers. It doesn't matter if it wrinkles, it's just in there. And they'll keep it kind of thick because it's so weak, they keep it thick. But what we do, and all of the higher class shoes have a thinner, that you want a thin tongue. You don't want a thick tongue. The thin tongue does not protect you less than a thick tongue. And it's more comfortable, and this is full grain also. So if they got the belly hide and they made it thin, it would rip. It would rip right out. So we have a really strong tongue that's not going to rip or tear. And if they made it thin and it's sewn in here, it would just tear. So if you get a thick tongue, it's probably because it's a weaker leather, and they have to have it thick or it'll rip. And little known fact that the tongue acts as a vent hood. And so you want a thin leather. If you have a thick leather, your feet are going to be a little hotter. But this is like the vent hood like you would have for a stove or above the stove. All of the humidity and all of that sort of thing breathes through the shoe and a lot of it comes out through the tongue. So you want to have a thin tongue. So this is a last. It's called a last. And this is the shape of the shoe. In fact, this is a Munson last from 1949. And I'm Dave Munson. So this was created by Dr. Edward Lyman Munson in 1912. They used all of these because it healed people's feet. So we have a great shape. We have an earlier generation that doesn't have such a puffy toe, but this is the last. Okay, and I've shown you this for a reason. So let's say you have the insole. Let's say this is the insole. This is where imagine this is your sock or your foot if you're barefoot, and it's touching the insole here. So this is, guys, this is a small detail, but it's pretty important. Watch this. So on the last, they'll tack the insole here that your foot will rest on, and then they'll have the upper over the top. Now they've got to attach this to the insole, and so they wrap it around and they stitch it to the insole. Okay, and so we use for our insole, because we cut a channel in this. Check this out. Imagine this is the shape of the foot. We cut a channel in there all the way around and at an angle, and then we can lift up this flap, and now this leather, the upper, wraps around and is sewn to this flap. All the way around, it's sewn to the flap. And in order to do that, to cut that channel, which is way better because now it lays flat and you have less of a gap in there. There's another way called the rib, and it's like a glued on piece that they sew it to, but it has a little air gap in there. And it's not as high of quality as the channel, but very few people even know how to do the channel. So they have, so this is now attached, and then you have, how would I do this? So then you have, now, you have this wrapped around, and you have this little gap in here, okay? Now this is sewn on to the last, and you can see the insole here, the bottom of the insole, and now, what a lot of places would do is they'll put a paste in there, like a cork paste with glue, and they'll smear it in this little gap here. It's like a kind of a narrow little gap about that size. They'll smear this paste in here. They have a squeezer, and they'll smear it on, and it's cushiony and everything, which is fine. But over time, it squeaks. It can squeak when it dries out over years and years. And if you want these to last for 100 years, you're not going to want that in there. So what we do is, because this is higher now than the insole, we put another slab of leather in there, right in the middle, and that takes on the comfort. So when they resole the shoes, they take this off and they put a new sole on after years and years of wear. They leave that big filler, they leave it in there because it's like, why not? And so now that shape to your foot, that's a quality thing. But that gap, when they sew it to the channel like we do, there's no gap at all. It just lays flat. The other one, it's a rib that's sticking up that they sew it to. They glue on a rib that kind of sticks like a shark fin all the way around, and they glue that in there, and they sew it to that, and then they fold it over, and now it has a little gap in there from that. But ours goes straight back into the shoe. It's a pretty cool process. And that is it's just a small 1% detail. Like the tighter the shoe, the less air you have in there, the fewer gaps you have in there, the stronger the shoe. So as they're wrapping this around, let's say this is the upper part, and you have the shoelace holes and everything on here, and they wrap it around, and as they sew it to the insole here on the last, at the same time they're sewing it to the insole, they're sewing a little chunk of leather, a strip of leather, all the way around, or a strip of something. We use a thick piece of really, really strong full grain leather, a strip, and it comes out of the machine and it attaches to the upper. And then, but a lot of places will use a synthetic welt. It's called a welt. It's called a Goodyear welt. Mr. Goodyear came up with it, and it's called a Goodyear welt. The machine and all that sort of thing made it really fast. So you can see the little edge of the welt right in here, and they'll take that little welt that's attached to the upper now, and they'll stitch through the sole. So they'll have it like this. They'll have both these together. They say this is the welt, and they'll just go along the edge of the shoe, and they'll all the way around. And now you have this, and then they trim off the edge like that. So that welt, if they don't have a strong welt, if they use a low quality welt or they use a synthetic welt, they can't put tension down on the machine very well. And this is, guys, this is one of those small details. The tension on the machine, that they can pull the upper down super duper tight down to that, and it won't tear through the welt. And they can pull it down super tight to the sole, and you get this perfect seal, really, really, really tight seal. We have a 3/4 welt. So it comes from here, and it goes all the way around, and it goes to right here. But if they use a synthetic welt, they just have to do it a little, kind of handle it with kid gloves, or if it's a cheap welt. And they can save a lot of money. A lot of these places, it's shocking. This one place was telling me, the place where we use, they said these high-end brands will come, and they'll say, we want to save 30 cents or 50 cents, so could you use this instead? It's amazing what people will do to save $1, to save $1. So we've spent a little extra on these, and I think you'll appreciate it. But we have a really strong welt. That's so important, you guys. And then we have the nice filler, and we have the thick insole. So a thinner insole down on the bottom, you would see it right here. A thinner insole that your foot rests on can wear through over time, over a long period of time, but ours is really thick, and it just gets the prints of your toes in there. You know what, actually, I've been wearing these, kind of testing them out, and I've already got little indentations here on my heel, and I can feel where my toes are in here, and the ball of my foot's right here. And I've been wearing them, I've probably worn them about 20 miles now, and it's starting to form to my feet. So it's really a cool thing that you have that insole that's really nice and thick. And then, it becomes like a padding. So we don't have padding also, and that is terrible for your body. For some people may need it for some things, but generally padding, I read a Harvard study from the head of the Spalding Rehabilitation Sports Center, and they said running with minimal or no padding at all is the healthiest for you. It builds up bone density, that sort of thing. So all of the high quality shoes and all the high quality boots, cowboy boots and all that, they don't have padding in there. That's for little Hello Kitty feet that have been coddled all their life, and they use padding. But they say it magnifies and expands the shock that hits, it shoots it up, and also it's really bad for the feet and weakens the arch. So this has no padding in it, I was talking to a foot doctor. He said, yeah, a heel stack is all you need. That's all they've ever had until 60, 70 years ago. They've never had anything but leather soles, and they've had straw, and they put grass in there and stuff like that. But generally, all shoes throughout all of history have not had padding until now, anything of substance, and it's been hurting people's knees and backs, and it's pretty bad. So this is a big deal. I'm super excited about this. So these hooks, we have, I wanted 7 because I think it looks beautiful, 4 of these, and so you can, check this out. I did 4. This is a little side note. This is free, but watch. You just pull your shoe out. You just pull it out with 4. If you have 5 or 6, it's harder to do that. And then you just hook them for speed. They're called speed hooks. And not all speed hooks are created equal. In fact, have you ever seen this? Where you have 3 on this side and you only have 2 on this side because one of them pulled. This was a sample boot we had made somewhere, and they used this little hook here, and it pulled out on the inside. It has a little shaft that goes through, and then it's pressed and it stars out. And all the little stars, that little burrs sticking out, you can see those. But then it just hooks to the leather. What we use here are these, and we put a metal washer on the inside, and then we press it. You have to do each one manually instead of having a machine. You have to place that manually, and this is really a high level way to do it, and it flares out. And then if you look at the back of these hooks, they're really thick. So this was designed, this is steel knife cut off of a brass rod, and that's intentionally so that it had to be cut instead of just pressed out. So you ever seen it where they're sticking out like that, or they're pressed in like this? In fact, watch. I just pressed it in with my finger. That's terrible. I've done that before with boots, and they come out when I pull on my shoelaces. They're sticking out. My shoelace keeps coming off. I bend it back, it comes out. I bend it back after a few weeks. It's back out again, and then it just breaks. And that's what low quality companies do. That's what my first big boy job boots are, and ours are not. Ours are all that. And the reason I did this, all of this detail, is because I wanted to highlight what quality looks like, so that, and I'm explaining to you all these fine details, so that you will know what to look for in shoes. So, and then the brass, so these are brass. Not all of these eyelets and hooks and stuff are brass. So these are 70% copper and 30% zinc. And that's super important. 70% copper, 30% zinc. I believe it's called alloy 260. And that is the tightest, strongest, hardest brass you can get. And so you get places who use 30% copper, they call it brass, or they'll use 22% copper or no copper at all. It's more like aluminum, but it's a lot cheaper. And ours are 4 or 5 times the price of most hooks that you can buy on the market, the most common hooks. These are 4 to 5 times the price, and these eyelets too. So these, you're not going to turn into an egg shape. These are really, really well done eyelets and hooks. So that is the those are the materials for this. So we use really, really, really strong leather, really tight, great materials. We use great lining, great insoles. We use great heel stacks, everything. By the way, watch out. Cheaper shoes, they'll have a hollow heel stack. So it'll look, or even synthetic leather heel stack. So they'll have maybe leather on the bottom, they'll have leather up here, or even a ring of leather, but not all leather. It's just a ring of leather on the outside, and then all of the rest is synthetic, or even a hole here. I've seen them cut in half, where it's just they're saving a penny here, a penny there, $1 here, $1 there on shoes. So watch out for that. Our materials, I don't think they could be better, more durable. You can get a calf skin, because the grain hasn't. The cow hasn't expanded yet, and the fibers are really, really, really tight on like a French calf or Italian calf skin. But this is thicker than that, and so this is, I believe, equally as tough and strong as that. Let me tell you about the construction and why you want to have a really high quality construction. What's the difference between a pretty good construction and a really, really high level construction? Well, not everyone knows how to do high quality construction, because there's a demand for mediocre boots, for mid-level boots that kind of fit, that can be machined. When they wrap the leather around this, they put it on the last and they stick it up in this machine, and it goes, and they kind of moisten it, and then they put it up there and it sticks it all to it, and now you have the form of the shoe. But if it has a great shape to it, they can't do that. They have to do it by hand. They have to hand last it. That's really, really, really important. Those are small details that make a big difference, and I'll explain it to you here in just a second. First, when we have the whole hide, you have it laid out here. So this is towards the belly, and this is towards the shoulder, and the ribs of the cow. This is the spine of the cow. The ribs of the cow go right here, and then this would be the head, and the tail will be down there. Well, the cow, if this were the cow, full cow, let's say he's staring you right in the screen there. This goes, he's expanding and contracting, his belly's expanding and contracting while he's eating, while she's pregnant, expanding, contracting. Well, those fibers down there lower are a little looser. And it's still good leather, but it's a little looser. and it stretches more. It's used to stretching. But up on the shoulder, you can imagine, it just doesn't stretch. And if this is the spine here, the cow has never stretched. It takes forever to get it to grow longer, so it's really tight. It doesn't stretch this way hardly at all, but it stretches this way a little more here, and especially from the bottom of the ribs down up under the belly to the bottom of the other ribs. And so what we do is we cut. The Italians, what they do is they cut this. They know this part is really important. This is called the vamp here. This part here, the front part, that's called the vamp. And they cut that from near the spine, which has the least amount of stretch in it. And then they cut the toe. We ask them, so this is where the arch is, which is really important that it doesn't stretch. We want a really nice tight arch, and I'll explain why we want a tight arch and what it does. So we cut them all in the same direction because the stretch is more this way, spine to like high to low, north to south, as it is east to west along the cow, tail to head. So that doesn't have as much stretch. So what we'll do is we'll cut the vamp here, we'll cut the waist, we'll cut the heel counter, we'll cut all those pieces all in a row so it has the same amount of stretch. So when you put them together, it's like fabric. If they don't, there's warp and weft on the roll, and if they are not cutting the fabric to go in the same direction, the warp and the weft, it'll separate in the dryer. And when it dries, some will shrink, some won't, a little more thread. It's the same with this. The grain of the cow, the stretch of the cow goes north-south. And so what we do is specifically, in certain spots, we'll cut, we don't want this stretching. So this is going, this part here, this is east-west. This is head to toe. We'll cut it from here so that it doesn't, but then we do it all in the same time so all the stretch happens all together at the same time. That's really, really important. Not everyone does that. They want to see how much leather they can use. We throw a lot of leather away but they'll just put pattern after pattern after pattern after pattern after pattern after pattern because of the materials. This is the most expensive part. And so you go, how can they do that shoe for so cheap? My shoes cost more than most shoes are for sale. And they cost me more. It's because of the leather. We throw a lot of leather away, and this leather is really expensive leather. And it's expensive because it takes so long. We've gone through all of that. So, and it's just more expensive. So, because of all the processes and all that sort of thing we do. So this is how we cut out of the hide, and that is really important to a good quality shoe that's going to last for 100 years.
Whenever you do get to a point here, I got a text from Abram that says it's really important that Dave calls Colton whenever we get to a stopping point, or whenever you get to a stopping point.
Let me make a statement to go into the front. So this will go at the beginning of the construction part. So who cares if you have the greatest materials in the world if it's put together bad? It's like having a great submarine with all the greatest metals and all the greatest technology and all this stuff, and the pieces are glued together. Or you had a bunch of 10-year-olds in there like welding the submarine. It's not going to last long. It's going to fall apart. So in the same way, you could have all the greatest materials, and we have all the greatest materials we could find, all the highest quality, and we have the highest quality construction that we could find. And this is so important to have a 100-year warranty on a shoe. So after the leather's cut, it's put onto the last. This is the last, the shape of the shoe, and different last for different shoes. And it's put on there, and let's see, I'll grab another piece like this. And they put it into a machine. They get it all wet and moist, and then they put it in here over this last, and they pull it up into a machine, and it kind of sucks it up in there, and it pulls it evenly all the way around, and it kind of tacks it in place, and now it kind of looks like that. well, this one kind of looks like that. And you go, oh, that I can see the shoe now. I can see the shoe. That's cool. But when it does, it pulls it all evenly. And here's what we do. Because we have a twisted last, see that? It's straight on this side, and I'll tell you about that and why that's so important for durability. It's straight, and it has a wide toe box here. Let's see how it curves way over on this side, as opposed to this shoe, which is kind of even. It's kind of rounded in the middle. It's all kind of the same. And they put the leather over this last, if we had that one, and it just pulls it right up, and it tacks it all in, and then they start stitching, right? But ours don't do that. Ours, and it's also a twisted last. It's a shape, so it's more orthopedic. So it mimics a barefoot step. It's a really important part of what we do. And so it healed all my knee pain and hip and foot pain and stuff. Is really great. So we wrap it around. You'll have the guy pull it by hand. This is why it's so important. He doesn't evenly pull all the things. This piece of leather might be tighter right here, tighter here, and a little looser here, and medium here, and a little tighter here, and a little looser here. So what he does is he'll wrap it around from the top, and he'll grab it and go, and he'll last it by hand. Instead of machine lasting, which pulls it all evenly, he pulls it and he goes, yeah, right about there. And he's experienced. And he'll tack it in. And then he'll get another spot and he'll grab it, pull it. Oh, this is pretty tight. No, I better not pull that much. And he'll tack it there. And it's a little looser. I'm going to pull a little more, tacks it there. And so hand lasting, the guy can judge the leather, which varies all the time. And he can say, but if it pulls it down all evenly all the time, all of it's like pulled down, then he might overstretch a hard part and he might understretch a soft part. And now it's not really fully stretched. And so now you're like, why is my toe box getting so wide? Why is it stretching out? Because the leather isn't tight here, but it's tight here. And it's kind of tight here, and it's not really tight here. And so the looser your shoe is, the more damage there is. And so you want to keep it nice and tight. So the hand lasting instead of machine lasting is what we do. We do a little hybrid. We'll get it up there to start, and then we have to take it off and bend it. But that's not a common thing. People don't understand how to do it. And it's kind of a lost art because they're making shoes as fast as they can. They're not making quality shoes as often. So not as many people know how to do that. And it takes longer, it's more expensive. When we're stitching these down here, as they're stitching the sole to the welt, to the upper that has the welt sticking off of it, and they're sewing it down through this. One of the things they do is the machine, a good quality machine, has glue that the thread goes through and it runs through. And as it stitches, the glue is kind of sort of dry on the thread, and it goes through and it dries inside of the little stitch hole. And now, even if as the sole comes off, that thread holds it to it. And so some places won't use that glue or don't have that machine, and so they'll just stitch it with regular thread. And once it comes undone, it starts unraveling. And it comes loose. So ours doesn't because we use that machine. And also look at the bottom here. This is a small detail. You're going to have to resole these shoes anyway. Instead of having a disposable shoe like a lot of the shoes are today, if it's glued down, that sort of thing, disposable. Ours is intentionally meant to last for 100 years. And so we use this slicing machine, the same one we use for the insole to attach the upper to the insole. It slices at an angle here, and then what we do is or actually it comes in at this side, it slices in, and then we stitch the welt we lift up that little flap of leather, we lift it up, and then we stitch down, and then we put the leather back down, and then they glue it down so the stitching is not showing. And that's just another level, so you're not walking on thread and rubbing the thread. And it wears away. There's a channel you can do, which I like that too, but still, it's not as good as this. And that's one of the small details, particularly for finer shoes, that the thread doesn't wear away. Some people just sew right on top of the leather, and it just wears off and it starts coming apart. Kind of weird to me. That's one of the small details is on the stitching. So after they moisten the leather and they last it on the last, and it's tacked on here and it's really perfectly formed. This would look like this here. And now what they do is now you have this last, right? They'll take it and it's all formed and it's kind of moist. And a lot of places will put it through a dryer to hurry up and get it so they can get this last out and do the next pair of shoes. But what we do is we leave it on the last for 48 hours. And this is, you want it to air room dry, air temperature dry, so that it memorizes the shape of the last. And so if you don't do that, it will not memorize the shape very well, and your shoe flattens out or it stretches in a bad way. And that is what low quality places do. They hurry up because they don't want to buy more of these lasts. They're expensive. The last is expensive to buy. And so if this is sitting for 48 hours, you can't make this shape, this size anymore. And you have a lot. You have 2 different widths or 5 different widths or whatever you'd have, different lengths with the widths. And so they just hurry up, pull that thing out and go to the next one, go to the next one. And people who are still buying starter shoes, they don't know about that, but the shoe just starts looking dumpy over time. But also it stretches out and loses its form. One of the other things we do is in between the lining and the leather is a thin piece of canvas in between. The canvas does not stretch, but the leather does. And so when you have that in there, a little bit, but it's really tight leather, when you have it in, it keeps this beautiful form for a really long time. Keeps it robust looking, keeps it full looking, doesn't flatten. When someone just has a lining with the leather, it tends to flatten a little bit. Ours, it stays and maintains that beautiful shape, but also the canvas doesn't let it stretch. And so it doesn't and all leather stretches. It's called creeping, but scientifically. But this leather doesn't stretch because you have the canvas in there. The real thin layer, but it's just a beautiful technique that the Italians do because that's what a lot of the high-end brands require. That wasn't So as you can see, this type of shoe lasts longer, looks better for longer. You want to wear it after 10, 20, 30 years, as opposed to a shoe that you don't want to wear anymore because it looks so dumpy. And but it holds together nicely. And that's a long-term thinking. So it's more expensive to do this because the people who know how to do it, they make more money. The materials are more expensive. The factory, they have really high standards. They have a lot of extra quality control. They have all the people are highly skilled, all of that stuff, and that costs a lot more to make the boot than someone who's just has soft little tender hands making your boots for you. Also, because it takes the people who have all those skills, it's really expensive to get that, and there's not as much demand for that kind of this level of boot because people don't understand. They think that's just marketing. Why would I buy a pair of Italian shoes or from England or from France or German shoes? Why would I do that? It's just all marketing. I would never pay more than whatever. My cost of shoes, the cost where they go, here's the shoe, pay me this, that's more than most people are paying for shoes. but the difference with this is saves you money because we have the quality materials, the quality construction, and we have the quality shape that actually it healed all my knee pain and all of my plantar fasciitis and everything. It's amazing shape. But let me go into that now. So we have the quality materials, design, we have the quality construction, and it's also a beautiful shoe. I get complimented on this all the time when I'm wearing my shoes. Strangers, hey, those are nice boots. Where'd you get those? Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's very kind of you to say. Also improved the way I dress because they were so nice. I was like, I told my wife, I want you to dress me better. So she bought some nice clothes. But let me go into why the design makes these last longer and how we feel comfortable giving a 100-year warranty. So check this out. So imagine a lion in a box. And the lion's, it's a small box too, and he's pushing him against the sides, and he's pushing and boom, he breaks out, right? Well, that's what happens when someone when they just make a shape of a shoe, and then they just want your foot to kind of squeeze in there and fit in there, and it has this long break-in period, and you're like, dang, it's uncomfortable, but they say it'll break in. That's because the shoe was made. The shape of the shoe was made expecting that your foot would form to the shoe. And then it's all tied on the sides, and so you're destroying the shoe from the inside out. But what we've done is we have an anatomical shape. So we look at the anatomy of the foot and where the muscles are and where they connect and where the shoe flexes, the foot flexes and bends and all that sort of thing. And then we shaped the shoe around the anatomy of the foot. And so when you put it in, it's like a leather sock. And let me explain that to you. So what we did is looking at a foot, when you step your foot, some feet expand up to half an inch, half inch, especially if there's a lot of weight on the foot. And you have all your weight on one foot at a time. It expands out. If there's nowhere for it to go, if it doesn't have a wide toe box here, right in here, if there's nowhere for it to go, then that's bad. And that's going to be pushing out the side of your shoe from the inside out. It's going to be like a lion in a tight cardboard box. It's going to be pulling. The other thing is a straight inner line. See this? This is the Munson last from Dr. Munson from 1912. And all military shoes and boots were made from 1912 into the Vietnam era on one of these last, the Munson last. And this is an actual one. They made hundreds of millions. This is the most popular shoe last ever in all of history, ever made. And it's because Dr. Munson, in his book, it's called The Soldier's Foot in the Military Shoe, and he said, if you have this inner line here and a wide toe box, particularly, those two things are the biggest ones. He said it corrects all of the existing foot problems, almost every single one, and all the new recruits. It strengthens their arch, it does all these things, and it fixes bunions and and it gives us a healthy army. And they said the army that marches better, the most people you get to the battle, the more likely you are to win. So this has a straight inner line, so your big toe is not pushing in, as opposed to, as you can see, this one, it pushes your big toe in that way, my big toe in. This one, it lets it go straight. And so we have a wide toe box, and my big toe is not trying to push out of the shoe. And my toes aren't trying to push against the sides of the shoe from the inside out. And so the shape of your shoe is really, really important. The other part is the pattern. Guys, I don't know if most people don't know this, but the pattern of the shoe, like where this comes down and where this comes up and it wraps around the ball of your foot here, the pattern comes in right in here, and all of these things, you have to have an excellent pattern to have it last a long time. So check this out. This one, the pattern's bad. Look at that. It just goes, my finger goes straight in there. Because my big toe was pushing out, right here, and they used a cheap thread here, and so this was it just wore out with UV rays, and then it's a nylon thread instead of a polyester thread like we use, which is UV resistant, super strong. It's like technically a continuous filament thread. This is made up of a whole bunch of little fibers. So this came out, and now I've got this gap here. It's just kind of junk. So the pattern, guys, is super important on how you do the pattern. By the way, some places they don't have. It looks like a toe cap here, but they sew the vamp up to. They have a straight edge on the vamp, and then they sew this little piece here, a toe cap, over the top, overlap it a tiny bit, and you think it's a full toe cap over the top of this for extra protection, but it's not. It's just a piece of leather here, and then a little joint there, and then a piece of leather. It's cheating, or it's kind of decorative. Ours it's a full piece of leather, and then it's a full toe cap over the top. So check this out. This shape keeps it high quality, keeps it from tearing apart. So check this out. So we have the one of the identifiers of the Munson last. Ours is based off of the Munson last, but it's made more beautiful. The Munson last, and there are like 6 generations of it. The last 3 generations had big toes, so it looked kind of like a clown toe. So people stopped using, and it was really round. See, ours is kind of straight up, and it has this elegant toe on it, and it's flatter. That's what we did. This is an original Munson last from 1949, so this is probably 3rd generation. Oh, I'm sorry, this is 4th or 5th generation of the Munson last. This is after World War II. So, but get this. Here's why it's so important. We have a narrow. One of the things that we have is a really narrow waist here under your arch, and that's for medical reasons and stuff. You want to support arch support. By the way, in shoes, it's of the devil, and everyone says that your arch is like this, relaxed, and then it expands out as you step, goes back up, expands out, goes back up. And if it just sits like this, it atrophies and you lose muscle. Your muscles get weak, you get a weak arch, your feet tip, goes up to your knees and all that sort of thing. So this has a narrow waist and it has a snug heel. So check this out. If you put your foot into a shoe that doesn't have a narrow waist and it has a wide toe box, but the heel is snug, it's going to go like, your foot's going to go like this, back and forth, side to side, side to side. Push, 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 back and forth, until it stretches out. And that just weakens everything. Or if you just have a narrow, nice snug arch, nice snug waist here, but your heel is not snug, then you're going to be going like this, spinning in the middle, and it's going to be expanding out here, in only slight ways, but 10,000 steps a day if you're walking all over London. And then it's pushing side to side, and that's going to wear out your shoes. But we have a snug heel and a snug waist here. So what that does, it lets your toes expand and contract, but it keeps it firm and fixed. So you're not having problems with your toes pushing and being pushed against the side, which damages you, but also damages the leather. So ours just keeps it in place because it's fixed in place from here to here. It's like a leather sock. And then this just is allowed to expand and contract. So it's like when you're walking barefoot. That's one of the features of the Munson last, is that it has a snug heel and the snug waist. And that keeps your shoe intact. And it's healthy for your toes instead of being pushed against slam. So the shape of this and the pattern is what keeps this thing not tearing apart from the inside. Almost finished. I have the triple stitch. On some of these spots, we have our stitching, which is intentionally with 3 rows of stitching where it counts. We have 2 rows of stitching on this back one and then one in the front. The one in the front right here doesn't take as much pressure, but the back one, that I wanted 2 layers of stitching there, and then I wanted 3 here. So that's really important that we have that stitching, because I don't want it coming apart in those spots. And so actually, and then we have of course, the really thick stitching along the last here, along where the last attaches to the sole here. But here's a problem that a lot of people will come up with. They'll have fake stitches. They'll get a piece of leather, stitch around all the edges, stitch it around, and then they'll take it to the sole of the leather of the shoe and they'll glue it. Can you believe that? They'll glue it instead of stitching because they can make it faster. So it's just a decorative stitch. A lot of these are decorative stitches on a lot of shoes. But our shoes, every stitch counts. And we wanted it to be like that so it holds together longer, so we can give a 100-year warranty. So why wouldn't everyone offer a 100-year warranty? I don't understand. Or a lifetime warranty. Of course not on the sole and the heel, because those wear off and those get replaced by the cobbler. That's just what you do with high quality shoes. These aren't disposable shoes, but they look really good. But why wouldn't everyone do that? And one of the reasons is because not everyone understands the value in quality, and how actually having a quality shape, material, construction, and a quality design will make your shoe last a really long time and look really good for a really long time. So for the rest of your life even sometimes. And so a lot of people are short-term thinking. They don't know that about it. So they don't spend much money on their shoes, and their knees are hurting, and their lower back's hurting, and their hips are hurting, and their feet and all their ankles and their tendons are hurting, Achilles tendonitis, because they're buying cheap shoes that don't have a good form, or their feet are sweating. By the way, when your feet sweat, this is all leather. I designed it with all leather. There are no synthetics in it, and all natural, so that your feet breathe. So when people go to resole a shoe, if it has a lot of like synthetic linings in it, then they'll down at the corner, at the edge where the welt is, will be salt crystals all along there because your feet were sweating. Because synthetics don't breathe. Leather breathes. And so the air will pass through it slowly, but it keeps your feet cool and doesn't let them get too hot, yet it keeps them warm. So the salt deteriorates leather from the inside. And also those synthetics, this is interesting. As far as health goes, I know there's a little side note, but stink grows on bacteria. Bacteria, that's the stink. And it's not leather. Leather doesn't stink. So it's antibacterial. So it'll always smell the same. But it's not good for you. There are a whole lot of studies about sloppy bacteria baths are not good for you. So we just steer clear of synthetics altogether, but it's breathable, which keeps the leather from getting hot and sweaty and then stretching. And so that's part of how we can offer a 100-year warranty, is that your feet aren't all sweaty. Some people sweat more than others, but the less sweat, the less moisture, the better in these boots. And it's all these little 1% details, 3% details, 10% details. All of those add up to us easily offering a 100-year warranty. Because I said, if we're going to do this, if we're going to go into boots and shoes, let's do the highest quality possible, the highest quality in the whole world that the world has ever seen. And I can't say that we've gotten there, but we tried. And a lot of companies do it really, really well. But by doing all of this and explaining this in fine detail, what I'm really hoping is that other companies who have people who say, hey, we have shoes for our company, we want them a little higher quality now that we saw this. And then people going, I never bought quality shoes before because I didn't understand. And now they do. So we're going to create a bigger demand for higher quality, which will lower the demand for low quality. That has a whole chain effect. But I'm really thankful that you watched this, all of this time, and I hope that you really enjoyed it, and I hope that it has helped you to make better choices and save money and have a better quality shoe.